Hello, and welcome to the Sisters of the Shire podcast. I'm Abby,
And I'm Ashley.
and our podcast is all about talking about our love of Tolkien stories and maybe introducing or helping you through some that you might have missed.
This season, we are uncovering, both uncovering and covering the unfinished tales, Tolkien's extended versions / alternate universe / deleted scenes of a lot of the stories you might recognize from the Silmarillion, plus some bonus content that didn't work with the Silmarillion narrative flow.
So, whether you've read every book cover to cover, or you're just here because you are curious about Tolkien's other works or had a hard time reading them, all are welcome.
Now let's jump into the unfinished tales.
Woo! Let's go!
Let's go!
Woo! How are you?
Let's see, we got a tree. We cut down a tree. Well, we picked one from the already cut trees.
Oh, cool.
So that was fun. We had to stop going to our old place that even I went to growing up because they just stopped caring, I guess. And it's funny, we went from that lot. We gave it like a good 2 hours of walking around trying to find a good tree. And then we went to this other lot that was closer to our house, but a bit more expensive. And the difference in quality, like, these are like actually all alive? Like, concept.
I miss doing that. I miss going and picking a tree. We used to go cut down our tree. We found a cool place the past few years. We used to cut down our tree every year, and then when it was like
Killing your son.
Yes, we found out my son was very allergic to Christmas trees, so now we have a fake tree. But the kids were like, I'm sad we don't have our tradition of gonna go cut down a Christmas tree and all that stuff. I'm like, yeah, it's not the same pulling it out of the attic.
Not quite the same.
So, but ours is up as well. Didn't you, am I wrong that you guys one year when you were growing up, you got a Christmas tree and there was something alive in it still? Like something living was still in the tree?
I don't think still living, but maybe like a nest, like a bird's nest or something that was similar. So I grew up with 4 other siblings, so it kind of went in turns of who got to have the official pick of the tree. And my brother, who is the middle child, would pride himself on not a tree, but a bush of a tree. And he would like run around the whole lot, like just running from tree to tree. And then I hear him from like the clear corner of the other, like in the like furthest reaches of the world. I found it. And it was like, I'm not even sure if that will fit in our house. Like a big bush of a tree.
Found a way.
Yeah.
I remember it was almost like a circle of a tree. Like it was very like the diameter and the height were almost the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good times.
A cylinder, like a fat cylinder, maybe like akin to like maybe a tuna can that is just very wide but not very tall.
Yeah.
I don't know how to, but also maybe still tall. I don't know. The visual is there, right? Yeah. And then Nate kept finding all of the Charlie Brown trees. He's like, how about this one? I'm like, it has to be at least taller than me, I think. That's like my requirement for a tree. I'm not asking for much.
Yeah. I know. My son has always begged for a tiny little Charlie Brown tree. And I'm like, okay, I would if those weren't also $40.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, I love you, but if I'm going to spend money, I'm going to spend money on an actual giant tree.
Well, and see, that's why we loved the place that we been going to for years, and the place I, went growing up, is that no matter the size of the tree, $40.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And like they didn't even like inspect it. Like people could have driven off with trees like that. But so like the layer of like caring was just at the bottom. They literally had like a coffee can outside of the door. They would never even answer the door. Like the caring level just went down over the years. But it became a matter of like, I'm going to look at this tree from like my head up and like maybe the top is okay. I have to like figure that into account. Like it's not good here, but maybe towards the top it would be fine. Like I remember one year Nate was cutting like at his eye level to try and like get the top of the tree.
Yeah. We found out the hard way one year when we were on a Christmas tree farm. So it was an actual like muddy real life forest farm of trees, right? That you can walk for a long time. And they had different like patches of like these are a blue spruce or these are, different kinds of evergreens. And we were chopping one down and we get it home and I'm like, what the heck? I swear this was bigger. And then I found out that like we were on a hill and we were looking up at the tree, but when we cut the tree down, it was about like 1.5 feet shorter than we thought it was. So when we got home, we're like, oh, well.
Yeah. We've also done like the Christmas with the cranks thing where like we took the tree like and shook it and then like, oh, we already bought it and it's like half gone.
Oh no.
Or like by the time we get home and put it up, it's like half gone. Yeah.
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 Amazing.
Yeah.
Well,
what's funny is this more full tree, you can't see the ornaments on. So I'm like, give and you take.
Yeah, true.
Anyways.
Anyways. Well, first of all, I want to say I hope everyone had a good holiday. If you celebrate Thanksgiving, I hope you had a great, safe, fun Thanksgiving. And we're glad you're back here with us enjoying more Tolkien. So let's get into it.
Okay. So how much do you remember of last week? I don't expect you to remember the names of the different areas, but do you remember like kind of basic broad strokes, would you say, of the areas?
I remember that Númenor is the shape of a 5-pointed star, and they all ended with the word, each region was split into 5?
Mm-hmm.
Technically 6 if you count the middle area as something different.
Yeah.
But the points, the arms of the star, as they would say, are different regions of the island, and they have different purposes, different exports, different people who live there.
Mm-hmm.
And they all end with star, which I think it explained that I think that the names were meant for like north. Well, am I wrong? Like north, south, east, west.
Yeah.
And there was like different things were famous, different parts of the regions of Numenor were famous for different things.
Mm-hmm.
And or known for different things, I should say. And they had the ones I remember were the like northwest part of the star of Numenor, where Aragorn's family was from, right?
Yeah. So just west though, because if you think of a star, it was just to the west one. And actually, I just put together something in my brain with you saying that. So that region is called Andustar. And if you think of, I'm like, why does Andu sound familiar? I'm like, Anduril. Why am I thinking of Anduril? And then he literally, I can hear Aragorn, flame of the west. So Andu literally means west. So Anduril, Andustar, west.
Okay.
So yes, you're correct. That one does have the beautiful bays and it has the ancestral home of Aragorn and Elendil's people.
Okay.
Do you remember an eagle in like stone or stargazer area?
Was that the north? The very
Uh-huh.
north?
hmm and then we had some pretty tree areas.
Mm-hmm. And they were like good smelling trees?
Yeah. There was lots of different kinds of trees, but yeah, different smelling, all sorts of color qualities. Uh, there was also kind of a more vineyard slash like fisher folk area, an area that was just known for a specific Larun Kae tree, the golden rain tree. And then the one that was to the east, that was just green, basically.
And um oh darn. What was I gonna say? There's something about the tree was supposed to be in middle. No, like wasn't it? It went to Middle Earth,
Only
but then they were like,
only
it,
one of the trees survived to go to Middle Earth. Um, and that was oh, I don't remember which tree that was because it's I think it was the Luring King because it was the um I could be wrong now that I'm on the spot because it was the one that Galadriel took with her um and or someone gifted it to Galadriel and then Galadriel planted it in Lorien and then Galadriel gifted a seed to Samwise and planted it in the Shire. So it was like this cool musical chairs of the of Middle Earth for this one particular type of tree that was in Numenor at one point in time.
hmm,
But yeah, the sadly the other ones didn't make it.
hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They didn't have room on the ship, but they had room for a freaking rock. Say it again and again. Okay, so like you said, we talked about the 5 points of the star, but now we are going to talk about the middle of the star. And this area is about a 250 square mile area, so pretty big. This central area is called Mittalmar, or inlands. And it's kind of annoying to me because the 5 points of the star, that is very, separate. It is very easily distinguishable. I can give you a reference point, west, east, you know, 12 o'clock, 5 o'clock, whatever. The inlands, Middlemar, technically divided into 3 separate regions. It has a tiny, tiny little bit of a coastline. It's mainly flat with grasslands, lowlands, pastures, except a tall mountain, which we will get to later. Now,
Okay.
I mentioned they're random dividable things.
Yeah.
It's imagine a cookie, if you will. So a circular cookie. Now you gave that cookie to Oakley, let's say, and being a little child, he'll take one bite off of one area, and then of course he doesn't take the bite off the same area because he's a child. So he plays with it, and then he comes back around and takes a bite of another area, not on the same bite, but just next to it, right?
Mixing it up.
Yeah. So that's literally what the middle mar is like. It's like a circle that has a bite over here and then a bite over here. Like it makes no sense. And then just like this weird like hourglass shape of everywhere else. Not even an hourglass. Like a tree, I suppose, with a trunk and roots. I don't know. Anyways, so the main cookie is Middlemar, except these 2 regions. That makes sense.
The main big area is missing 2 like chunks out of it.
Yes.
2 bites out of it.
Yeah. So the first one we're going to talk about is I wrote out the phonetical this time. Give me. I'm going to do it. Emerië, which is,
Mm.
and the second one is Arandor, which is Kingsland. So we're talking about sheep and kings. No in between.
Sheepland.
So I know. So Emerië is in the, like I said, it's a weird way to describe it. So it kind of think of a southwest area. It's known as the chief region of the shepherds and is only noted to have the White House of Arendis, who is a character we will talk about in the next section. Next section. But just kind of remember that, store that away for later, or forget, and I will just tell you again later. The other area, Arandor, if I were to try and explain the location, would say is maybe in the northeast kind of area. And while it is pretty small area, considering the size of the entire island, it was surprisingly the most populated.
Okay.
So in the middle of our Mittalmar, it has a big, big mountain. And even though it is in the middle of the cookie, it is technically in Arandor in the section just because of the bite that was taken out.
All right.
Yeah, it's very
So the big mountain is in the middle of Numenor, but it's technically Arandor.
correct. Now, there are 3 main cities, or what they refer to them as havens, in Arandor. The Meneltarma, which is the pillar of heaven, Romena, which is eastwards, and Armenalos, which is city of kings. Might sound familiar from our Akalabeth episodes. Now, the Meneltarma, the pillar of the heavens, is that tall mountain that I mentioned earlier. And it was sacred to the worship of Eru Iluvatar, which, if you don't remember who that is like the god, the creator of the universe, the creator of the Valar, the guy.
The guy.
The guy. Now, towards the bottom of the mountains, it's kind of a gentle climb covered in grass, and then it gets steeper and steeper until it is pretty much impossible to climb. And the only way to get to the summit, the area devoted to Eru Iluvatar, is by a winding spiral road that goes up, which I kind of like better than the switchback way, right?
Or just straight up.
Yeah. So the summit of the Meneltarma is flat and had a space for a lot of people to gather, which they did. Quote, but it remained untouched by hands throughout the history of Numenor. No building, no raised altar, not even a pile of undressed stones ever stood there. And no other likeness of a temple did the Númenorians possess in all the days of their grace, until the coming of Sauron.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. So interesting that, I think of like Mount Olympus maybe that has like this big, in my head, it's like the Parthenon at the top or whatever. This is just a mountain up to the sky. Like there's no rocks, there's no like altar to speak from, there's no
sign.
Yeah, there's no sign, no benches for the old people to sit on, just plain summit.
Yes.
Another interesting thing here is that on this summit, no tools or weapons were ever used. So you couldn't even bring up a weapon up there. It's known for worship. And no one spoke when they were on the summit except the king. And this only happened 3 times a year, where he would walk up the mountain all in white and garlanded, so I'm assuming he had like a crown of some type, with everyone falling behind him in silence, and these occasions were known as the 3 prayers.
Huh.
Yeah. So the first prayer is a prayer to on the first days of spring, called the Eru Kairme. I'm trying. So this was like the spring equinox, like the first days of spring, my birthday, it's still a special celebration. Um, so it's interesting that they offer a prayer here. Now, the second prayer is praise. So it's not an asking, it's a praise of him. Praise of Eru Iluvatar at midsummer, or Eru Laitale. Eru Laitale. Doing my best, guys. So midsummer solstice kind of idea, to praise Eru for, I'm assuming, all the prettiness, right?
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Then the third prayer is a thanksgiving at the end of autumn. Eru Antale. I'm doing my best. So we have an asking, a praise, and a thank you, which I kind of like.
We just celebrated whatever you just said.
I know. I'm like, I wish my timing would have been better here, but whatever. Also, I can't pronounce it even if I tried. And I'm not sure how many people would know that. Like, happy Eru Antale Day to you. And they'd be like, with your mouth.
She's having a stroke. Help, help.
So those three prayers are the only time that anyone's allowed to speak, and it's only the king. I kind of love that, though.
That's kind of cool, though. You don't hear a lot of like the praising of the Valar or Iluvatar or anything like that.
Yeah. So other than those times, people were allowed to climb to the summit alone or in small groups. Quote, but it is said that the silence was so great that even a stranger ignorant of Numenor and all its history, if he were transported hither, would not have dared to speak aloud.
Whoa.
Yeah. I feel like that paints a picture.
Huh.
Like someone sneezed and be like, what the heck are you doing?
Go
ahead. I
was gonna say it just sounds cool. Like I'd want to be there. That sounds pretty cool.
It's interesting that a place can automatically, without even trying to, just provide this reverence and this solemnity.
Yeah.
So last week we talked about the northernmost point of the star, and it was the home of the eagles. And I said we would talk a little bit more about that next episode. Well, on the summit of this high mountain, no other birds flew except for eagles.
Maybe it was too tall.
We're going to talk about, maybe we're going to talk about other birds later, but, at the summit of this holy mountain, only eagles. Quote, if anyone approached the summit, at once 3 eagles would appear and alight upon 3 rocks near the western edge. That at the times of the 3 prayers, they did not descend, remaining in the sky and hovering above the people. They were called the witnesses of Manwe, and they were believed to be sent by him from Aemon, or Valinor, to keep watch upon the holy mountain and upon all the land.
Cool.
Isn't that so cool?
Do you think that like there's like families that are there with like their young kids, and then like the kids like, oh, it's an eagle, it's the eagle. They get to see them, and like it's like a special thing every year that they get to see the eagles. Adorable,
right? And I think it's interesting that they don't come at the 3 prayers, because it's almost like, oh, that's straight to Iluvatar. We don't need to be involved. But the other times, I wonder if people like tried talking to the eagles at all as like messengers to Manwe. I know there were witnesses of Manwe, but like, I don't know how to explain it, what I'm trying to say. Does that make sense, what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
So we have our huge mountain of Meneltarma, and at the bottom came 5 long, low ridges that went outwards to the 5 points of the star, called the Tarmasundar, the roots of the pillar. Now, if we go back to our clock star analogy, if you think of the 6 o'clock area, or the middle inverse point between the southwest and southeast points, there was a place there called Noirinan, the Valley of the Tombs.
Ooh.
Yes. Quote, chambers were cut in the rock at the base of the mountain, in which were the tombs of the kings and queens of Numenor.
Hmm.
Yeah. So interesting that it's not in the royal city, but at the base of this holy mountain. So,
Okay.
yeah, go ahead.
No, oh, never mind, never mind. I was wrong. I was wrong. Forget what I said. I was
Okay.
thinking of the I was thinking of the scene in Rings of Power where they like Elrond and Galadriel are like in that forest and it's kind of like tombs of people. Then I
Oh, yeah.
realized that that was on Middle Earth and not on Numenor.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
So
Um,
never mind.
well,
Forget
that
it.
tomb scene, I don't think that dark tomb scene would have ever been on Numenor until Sauron got there, if anything.
Mm.
Um, but I think this is interesting that it's not in the royal city, like I said, but it's also close to the place of worship, kind of like how cemeteries are close to churches.
Wait. I learned a cool fact. You want to hear my cool fact?
Yes, please. I love cool facts.
It's called a cemetery if it's owned by a company. It's called a graveyard if it's taken care of by a church. So that's why it's called a church graveyard,
What?
not a church cemetery. And that's why when we go to a cemetery, there's no churches nearby. It's just its own business of the burial of people. So if it's next to a church, it's called a graveyard. But if it's next to nothing and it's just owned by a company, it's called a cemetery. There you go.
So, why do I hate the word graveyard though?
I feel like that's a very old word. Like
It's very like,
because of it's associated with the church. So like it's been so old, it's such a simple
sure,
word of like it's a yard full of graves.
that's fair. That's fair.
But there
Um,
you go. There's my little fact that I learned.
I love it. I'm not sure how to segue back into what we're talking.
Well, you were just saying it was
Yeah, I know.
connected to a thing. So there you go.
I
So
know, I know. I'm just like,
I
so
had
the next city that we're going to talk
my useless facts need to be praised once every few weeks, and then I feel
yes.
okay.
I, I love your useless facts because you know what? They're useful.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So the other city of Arandor is Romena, which is eastwards. Not a ton is talked about this area, except that it was the only city haven of the Mittalmar that was on the coast. And because of that, it was known as the greatest port.
It reminds me of Elf when he's like, "What? Like, close your eyes and drink this. It tastes like a crappy cup of coffee." No, it's the world's best cup of
Best cup.
coffee.
Yeah.
So when people are
Uh,
like, "This is the best thing," I'm like, "Is it?"
is it? Yeah. Um, well, it's interesting that so this is part of like, you know, their central location. So this has like the tiniest bit of coastline to it. They're like, yep, that's the one. That's the greatest port. Not to mention that this like whole island is surrounded by water and surrounded by coastline. But no, this tiny speck here, greatest.
It probably has like a Chick-fil-A by it or something. That's why it's the best one.
That's why it's the best one. Um, So, in fact, the road from Romena to Armenelos, the royal city, onto the Valley of Tombs to the Meneltarma was known as, quote, the chief and most ancient road suitable for wheels.
Whoa, for
Yeah,
wheels.
I'll get back to that in a minute. So, the other city is Armenelos, the royal city. Isn't talked about specifically in this section, except random bits here and there, but just know that this is where the king's palace is and where a lot of the crap went down when Sauron shows up. So, just log that in your brain.
Okay.
Now, the rest of the section is mostly talking about Numenor as a whole. So we're not that we're done talking about the middle. Now we're just talking about Numenor and its customs and ways in general.
Mm-hmm.
So you might have thought, like you just mentioned, that it was a weird detail that the road was only suitable for wheels, wheels being the key point. And that is because the main mode of transportation in Numenor was by horse. Quote, for in riding the Numenorians, both men and women took delight, and all the people of the land loved horses, treating them honorably and housing them nobly. They were trained to hear and answer calls from a great distance, and it is said in old tales that where there was great love between men and women and their favorite steeds, they could be summoned at need by thought alone. Does that
Whoa.
sound familiar?
Can't. I mean, Gandalf called his horse, and
Kind of
then
with
and
a
then
cool whistle.
and then Aragorn's horse helped him a lot.
Borrego. Mm-hmm.
And I mean, Bill the Pony's the real star of the show here.
Well,
He
obviously.
uh
So this is displayed very well in the Rings of Power show with Isildur and Beric. Beric finding him when, Isildur was in the holy scariness of that spider infestation.
oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah. So, and like you said, even Aragorn and Brago seem to have a special bond too. Aragorn being the descendant of Númenorians, so that kind of
I
fits in as well.
remember the horse was like, "Get up. Get
Yeah.
up. Get
Yeah.
out of here." Um but I love that Viggo Mortensen like loved his horse too.
Loved his horse so much.
I know. Um but okay, can I say in the books, in the Hobbit books, the Lord of the Rings, it's more, I feel like more in the Hobbit. I feel that there's more animals that can talk. Like the ravens, I think, is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
For the dwarves
And
can
Smaug.
talk, and Smaug can talk, and the eagles can talk, and like things like that. That I wish I wish Tolkien took from C.S. Lewis's book of thoughts of, hey, maybe we should have some horse lords who could
That would
also
be cool.
talk.
Mm-hmm.
Because I love that in Narnia when he's like, come on, what is his name? Bill? No. What's the
Stephen,
horse's name?
that
It's like,
Edmund one in the end.
yeah,
It's like
yeah.
Stephen or something like that.
And he's like, I'm not young anymore.
Yeah.
Or he's like, come on, horse, stood. He's like,
Yeah.
my name is Stephen.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Mm-hmm. Uh, so because they mainly used horses, most of the roads weren't paved. So that's why. That was like the one road that was like the best for wheels, because all the other roads were for riding horses. Um, Coaches and carriages were only used for very heavy loads that were headed to a port. So, I mean, some horses had to do those, but it needed the wheels. So,
Do you think that they like were like, oh, our horses are too good to carry,
maybe
like
I could see that.
we don't use our horses for manual labor. They're our friends.
I mean, I could definitely see that for sure.
Okay.
Like it's one of those. I keep thinking of is it like in is it Ben-Hur and like the movie Hidalgo where they're like in the Middle Eastern um side of things where their horses like eat and sleep better than like the guys' wives, like
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
where they're just praised and loved and just pampered beyond compare.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I mean, maybe could definitely be the case. Um, so we did mention eagles earlier, and I think last episode you asked about other birds, and I kind of misspoke about that. So on the summit of the Meneltarma, the holy mountain, only eagles would fly. However, everywhere else on Numenor, quote, In Numenor, birds that dwell near the sea and swim or dive in it abode in multitudes beyond reckoning. The mariners said that were they blind, they still would know that their ship was drawing near to Numenor because of the great clamor of the birds of the shore. And when any ship approached the land, seabirds in great flocks would arise and fly above it in welcome and gladness,
Ah,
for they were never killed or molested by intent.
ah, cute. But all I
Cute.
can also think of is like someone opens a bag of chips and they're like, "Ah!"
Oh yeah, they would.
How did John die?
Yeah.
He brought popcorn to the beach. No.
Also, can you imagine all that bird poop? Like, it just would be everywhere.
That's why it's a
Disease would
white
run
city.
rampant.
It's a
No,
white
that is why it's a white city. I like
stone
it.
city.
Uh-huh. Quote, some would accompany ships on their voyages, even those that went to Middle Earth. Likewise, within the lands, the birds of Numenor were beyond count, from the Kirinki that were no bigger than wrens, but all scarlet, with piping voices on the edge of human hearing, to the great eagles that were held sacred to Monway, and never afflicted until the days of evil and the hatred of the Valar began.
I
So
think
a
of like
bit on the
the
oh sorry.
great eagles like uh, rescuers down under, how that thing was
Oh
huge.
yeah.
Why was it so
Yeah. I mean, because they're huge. Um, so a bit on the Karinki here for a second, because I didn't know what that was. So apparently they're only found on Numenor and probably Valinor. Um, and they never appeared in Middle Earth. In fact, the birds were so protected and beloved by the people that a huge eyrie was built and stood for 2,000 years on the top of a tower of the king's palace in Arminelos.
Huh.
And are you ready for this, Abby?
Huh.
Quote, and there one pair ever dwelt and lived on the bounty of the king.
A little bird
Like a little,
couple.
I know,
Oh.
I know. I knew you'd love that.
Aw.
Mm-hmm. So, you may be wondering, what did the Edain bring with them from Middle Earth to Numenor when they got there? Well, one thing that they brought, probably not surprising, and it's interesting that none of these things were found on Numenor, were precious metals. So, like treasure, gold, silver, gems. Um, Now, you might be wondering why they would bring that to Numenor when that's not exactly like the vibe that Numenor was set up for. It's a bit contradictory to the lifestyle that the Valar had set up for them, especially given that the fact that these metals and gems weren't on the island itself. And it's going to bite them in the butt later. Quote, they loved them for their beauty, and it was this love that first aroused in them cupidity, which is greed for money or possessions. In later days, when they fell under the shadow and became proud and unjust in their dealings with lesser folk of Middle Earth. So basically, like, it was brought over, and then, like, it was okay for a little bit, but when Sauron started messing with stuff and when the shadow came, more Sauron was spreading, it just became like a source of pride and like, oh, we're better than you because we have these, this treasure and gold and stuff.
Oh.
Yeah. Now you did ask last time what the elves of Tol Eressëa would give in as gifts or in trade. I don't know still yet what the Númenóreans would give them. Maybe like high fives. I don't know. But there were times that the elves would give the Edain gold, silver, jewels. But they were rare and were later, of course, moved to the royal city to the east. Because that area where the elves of Tol Eressëa would meet the Edain is on the west. But of course, the the royal fancy people had to have them moved so that they could, flout their power.
The royal fancy pants.
Hmm. Now, the Valar may not have given the people of the island the shiny stuff, but they did give them useful metals and ores on the island, such as copper and iron, things that actually have a helpful and practical use.
Okay.
Um, the craftsmanship that the Edai knew was based in tradition, and because they were friends of the Eldar, the elves, just kind of why they were given the island in the first place. And they learned a lot of their skills from them as well. They did use their craftsmanship to make some weapons, but mainly they made tools for the uses of peace.
So not swords and daggers and things like
Right.
that, but like maybe a hammer or
A good
a
ladle.
yeah, a soup pot.
A soup pot. Yeah. So funny you mentioned swords. So swords were made, but they were mainly for the kings and chieftains and were considered heirlooms that were passed down through generations. Although there were times that the kings would have a new sword made for the king's heir to be presented on their coronation day. So it's
Coronation
more
day.
for like it was more for tradition, ceremonial purposes that swords were worn, but it wasn't something that everyone wore every day.
Uh, it's their dress up clothes.
Yes, very much so. Now, bows is a different matter entirely, but still not usually made with lethal intent because they liked archery because they rode so much on horseback. It became almost a sport to the Númenorians.
Whoa. My father-in-law can do archery on horseback.
That's amazing. I mean, it's a very admirable skill. I imagine it's tricky. A lot of leg muscles in use there, I'm sure.
Uh-huh.
Have a good quads. Quote, in later days in the wars upon Middle Earth, it was the bows of the Númenorians that were most greatly feared. The men of the sea, it was said, send before them a great cloud as a rain turned to serpents or a black hail tipped with steel.
Ooh.
So I think they've done that before in like battle scenes where like the sky just turns black with all of the arrows that are coming.
That's so
Uh,
cool.
right. Um, So it's interesting that that wasn't really necessary on Numenor, but they had the skills already kind of in place so that later it became something they were known for.
Mm-hmm.
They did make axes, again, not for lethal purposes. They actually brought the axes on their ships when they were kind of like exploring islands around them. And it very specifically was like not for killing any inhabitants on that island, but mainly so that they could cut down trees for timber, which I find adorable. We just need some new trees, please.
Yeah.
Promise we won't hurt you.
Yeah.
Like a different tree is all. Um, so eventually they did use weapons, but it was mainly for self-defense. When the settlements they would come across became more and more corrupt due to the shadow, they did have to start using weapons more. So that wasn't very fun or nice, I imagine.
Yeah.
Um, but besides weapons and craftsmanship, as you might have guessed, a Numenorian's true love is the sea.
But my life, my love, and my lady is the sea.
Such a good song. So they would swim, dive, sail, fish. They loved everything having to do with the sea. And interestingly enough, the fishing was so good around Numenor, it of course became the main source of food on the island, which led to most fisher folk rising to places of honor and esteem, which I feel is like usually the opposite in similar settlements and areas where like the fisher folk are like, oh, they're at the bottom of the pole and just, are tradesmen.
Stinky old fisherman.
Exactly. But these are like, it sounds like the fisher folk could like get rich because of their good hauls. which is kind of cool.
Mm-mm.
Now, as far as sailing goes, they didn't stray as far from the coast of Numenor for about 600 years after arriving. But with knowledge from the Eldar and traditions passed down from generation to generation, the first ship from Numenor would make it back to Middle Earth after 600 years. Now, the captain of that ship was named Viantur. Name unclear, but possibly having to do with the sea, ship, wind. There were even talks of a definition of vigorous lord, which I find a very weird turn of phrase. He
He
was a
was
vigorous lord.
passionate.
Yeah.
He was adventurous.
Yes. Quote, thereafter, seafaring became the chief enterprise for daring and hardihood among the men of Numenor, and Aldarion, son of Meneltar, whose wife was Vientur's daughter, formed the Guild of Adventurers, in which were joined all the tried mariners of Numenor, as is told in the tale that follows here. So, following this section, we're going to learn more about Aldarion. Um, but interesting that this seems more kind of like the representation we saw of sailors in Rings of Power, where it was like a guild. It was like a trial that they had to pass to get into.
Like the Navy SEALs.
Yeah. Um, Now, there are some cool footnotes that I didn't want to interrupt the flow with, but still wanted to mention because they're awesome. Thank you, Christopher. Now, when we were talking about the swords earlier and how they were passed down from father to son, well, there is one sword in particular, and it wasn't exactly named here, but it did indeed have a name. So, per the Encyclopedia of Arda, my usual go-to, quote, the sword of Thingol, king of Doriath, and overlord of the Sindar. Remember, Thingol is Doriath, Menegroth, very haughty, very racist, let's just say.
Huh.
Quote, we know little of its origins or history except that it was named Arun Ruth, which means king's ire. After Thingol's fall, it was rescued from the sack of Menegroth and taken south by the survivors in the keeping of Thingol's great-granddaughter, Elwing. Elwing, in turn, gave it to her son Elros, Elrond's brother, who would become the first king of Numenor. And Arun Ruth remained the sword of the kings of Numenor after his time. The sword's final fate is uncertain. It may have been lost in the downfall of Numenor, or Erfarzon may have taken it with him to Aemon, in which case it still lies within the caves of the Forgotten. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. Kind of a cool
How come
thing.
all these cool things getting lost? Can you guys just like take care of your stuff? Be a little bit
I
more
know.
responsible.
Yeah. Like, I feel like they needed an air tag for some of these things. Find my my sword, please.
Find my sword.
There were some other cool heirlooms that made it to Numenor that you might remember from the other tales. One of which I cannot find any mention of it anywhere else, but I mean, other than just generally, one is the Great Axe of Tuor. Again, per the Encyclopedia of Arda, when Tuor dwelt in Gondolin, he carried with him a great axe rather than a sword. Its name, are you ready for this name? Dramborleg, which is translated as thudder sharp, because it would strike a thudding blow like a club or cut with a sharpened edge. The axe survived the fall of Gondolin and was carried across the sea to Numenor, where it became a royal heirloom. Its ultimate fate is not known with certainty, but it appears to have been lost in the downfall.
Come on, guys, quit losing your stuff.
I know.
We need a museum.
We do. Now, here's one that I had never heard before. It's never mentioned in the Silmarillion, to my knowledge. I'm sure it might be in some kind of dictionary or, appendice or somewhere like that. I don't really understand why it is so special, because there isn't a ton known about it. It's called the Bow of Bregor of the House of Beor. Um, was it magical? Was it ordinary? Was it a cool color? I want to know why it was special. If anyone knows the answer, I'd love to hear it. Um, but Bregor was Barahir's uncle and from a long line of the House of Beor. One story that could be related to this is a woman you might remember from the Silmarillion. Her name was an Emeldir, or she was called Man-Hearted, which I kind of loved. She was Barahir's wife, and supposedly, possibly, she might have saved this bow from the massacre to the House of Beor, and somehow the bow then ended up in Baron's hands. See previous heirloom trail given that led to Baron and it leading to Numenor. So by the time the bow was destroyed in the downfall of Numenor, the bow of Bregor was 3,500 years old.
What?
Yeah. And sorry, I realized that I switched my my heirlooms here. So there's going to be a very long and drawn out way of explaining the heirloom giving that I will get to on this one then.
Okay.
So our last and final heirloom, which I'm sure you guys may have guessed because it is the only one that survived that had the air tag and the geolocator for it. It is, I'm not sure if you've heard of it, the Ring of Barahir. And if you remember, this ring was given by our man, our Captain Beleriand Finrod. He gave it to Barahir of the House of Beor for saving his life, which would later result in Baron cashing in that favor that would ultimately lead to Finrod's death.
Oh, man.
R.I.P. Finrod. Then Baron gave it to his son Dior, and then on to his grandson Elros, first king of Numenor. And then down the line, it ended up with our girl who should have been queen, Silmarillion, who preserved it in the house of the lords of Andunier and was saved by our man Elendil the Faithful after the downfall. So apparently he could fit this ring on the ship. And what much later find its way to his descendant, our man, the one and only Aragorn.
Is that the ring that they talk about when they notice he's wearing a ring?
Mm-hmm. That would be it.
Ooh, cool.
So that's actually where I'm going to leave you today because that's the end of the section.
Talking about pretty jewelry and pretty sparkly swords and axes. My favorite.
And a bow that I don't understand. Did it have any significance? Was it magical? Was it like the helm where like if you used it, you supposedly couldn't die?
It always hit its mark.
Bow. Yeah, maybe it always hit its mark. It's not very clear. I'll have to look into it more. But if anyone knows, like a quick answer to that.
I mean, it seems magical if it's almost 4,000 years old.
Yes.
So
yeah, there is that. But apparently it can't withstand the Akalabeth. I mean,
no,
things could. Yeah. So thank you for joining us on this journey through Middle Earth. Please don't forget to follow us at the Sisters of the Shire podcast on Instagram. A big thank you to our patrons, Dan, Tom, Kevin, Victoria, and Avery. Your support keeps us going. We are so grateful. If you'd like to support the podcast and become a part of our fellowship, check us out on patreon.com/Sisters of the Shire podcast. If you're enjoying the podcast but can't help out monetarily, we understand. We get it. But if you could leave us a rating or review or share us or add us, all of the things, it would really help us out.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy, Abby?
What?
No new reviews and no movement on countries. It's a weird week.
Oh, no. Come on, guys. Let's change it up for this week.
I need some World Wars happening. on the rankings, not anywhere else, not in real life.
Let's change it up, people.
Yeah. So that's all I got for today.
Oh, well, thank you for teaching me about all the sparkly things and all of the cute horses and the all the birds, the cute little tiny little birds. It was a very cute episode. Thank you.
You're welcome. I even mentioned a cookie that wasn't mentioned in Tolkien's work. I'm waiting for a cookie reference. Probably would have called it a biscuit, huh?
Yes.
Yes. Well, until next time, I've been Ashley.
And I've been Abby, and this has been the Sisters of the Shire podcast. And we are so happy you are here, and we hope you can join us next time. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for teaching me a day.
Yay!